This man has abused his power. He has profited off his positions of power, and he has abused his position in America and the American people. So may I remind you about this WhatsApp text message from Hunter Biden that basically, and I'll quote parts of it here, I'm sitting here with my father, it reads, why has the commitment not been filled? He says in this text message that's on your screen, you will regret not following direction, he says, all the while sitting next to his father. This is to a Chinese businessman that he's demanding money from. 10 days later, $5.1 million shows up in a bank account associated with the Bidens. Media's silent on that, yet they go crazy over this tape for President Trump that was leaked, by the way, by somebody inside the federal government, which is a crime. That's a real crime compared to what President Trump did. So let's go through all the things that Joe Biden has done and Hunter Biden. $3.5 million payment. Remember that? From the Moscow mayor's wife. $3.5 million. Here's President Trump on that.
The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? What did he do with Burisma to deserve $183,000?
You've asked a question, let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really?
Totally, Mr. President, please.
Totally discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
he got $3.5 million.
It is not true.
Well, it is true. And yet again, the media ignores it. You hear Wallace, who was then with Fox News, defending Joe Biden. What about that email? 10% for the big guy. We all know Joe Biden's the big guy. Just these two things alone, $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife, 10% from the big guy spelled out in email from Hunter Biden to his associates. This after a mining company was sold to China. Hunter's business partner, Tony Bobulinski, spelled it all out.
James Gillier goes through intimate detail of what each individual's requests were from a compensation perspective and how the equity in the enterprise would be divvied up. Very important. May 13th, that email was generated by somebody else to me. In that email, there's a statement where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden.
Who do you believe? Joe Biden or Tony Bobulinski? I believe Tony Bobulinski. Why would he have to lie? He has no motivation to lie. This makes Richard Nixon look like a choir boy, folks, and yet the media ignores it all. What about Joe's video admission to basically holding back federal money, U.S. dollars, from Ukraine unless a prosecutor was fired, a prosecutor that was investigating Hunter Biden's Burisma? All the while, we now know Hunter Biden was taking in all kinds of money from Burisma, but they wanted the prosecutor fired or they don't get the $1 billion. He was caught on tape saying this, and yet the media ignores it.
I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a got fired.
That's a flat-out admission. It's using your position of power to allow your son, ultimately you, 10% for the big guy, to prosper. Now you got that on top of the money, $3.5 million coming from Russia. Now, what about all the election interference? We now just learned last week, John Durham of the Durham Report just confirmed what the report said, that Joe Biden was briefed on the Russian collusion hoax. He knew it was a hoax from the start. Here's John Durham.
On August 3rd of 2016, then Director Brennan had briefed the President, Vice President, Director of National Intelligence, the FBI, the Attorney General, and others.
When you say the FBI, you mean Mr. Comey?
They had, on August 3rd, it was conducted at the White House. It was Director Comey himself.
So Mr. Comey knew about this. President Obama knew about this. Vice President Biden knew about this.
What is is the mainstream media going to do? When are we going to get answers from a man who calls himself president and occupies the Oval Office? They call President Trump an illegitimate president. This stuff is out of control. This is the most crooked, corrupt president in American history. And just last night on this program, we learned that Joe Biden had a street-level drug dealer burner phone while he was vice president. Seamus, is there a chance that the now president of the United States could still have that phone?
That's a great question, Grant, something we need to know. I mean, there's a great chance. In fact, we do know there's an email from February 2017. So this is just a couple of weeks after Joe Biden leaves the vice presidency. And there's a text message that says Joe Biden would like to start paying his phone bill now. So it's very bizarre how he gets out of the White House in February of 2017, and all of a sudden he wants to start paying his bills.
Who was he calling with a burner phone? Why does the vice president need a third phone, a government phone, a personal phone, and this third burner phone paid for by Hunter's company? So we haven't even brought up the classified document scandal, a real scandal compared to President Trump's, which is a bogus box hoax. A real classified document scandal where he literally has classified documents, Joe Biden, as vice president, not as president, as vice president, spread all over the country, from Pennsylvania to Chinatown in Washington, D.C., to inside his garage. Who could forget his excuse for that?
Classified material next to your Corvette? What were you thinking?
Let me, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
So
but anyway,
was in a locked garage?
Yes, as well as my Corvette. But as I said earlier this week, people know I take classified documents and classified material seriously.
Seriously? He's got them in a garage all over the country. He was more concerned, as you could tell right there, about making sure his Corvette was locked up than the classified documents.